At Direct Service Overhead, we know how much trust you put in the individuals who have the privilege of working on the components of your home. We understand that a broken garage door is the last thing you want to be worried about, and most of the time, doors break at the most inconvenient times. Our professionally trained technicians service 24 hours a day, and our high-cycle parts are guaranteed to make a noticeable impact on your garage door without putting a damper on your wallet. If you're looking for need of assistance maintaining your current garage door, our team has the experience and expertise to deliver the results you deserve. Give Direct Service Overhead a call today or visit us online to learn more.
All right. Let's do this. I've got a, you guys know who he is, Stephen Hamner from QB Spotlight. 3, 2, 1. Yo, what's going on, Arkansas Razorback fans, SEC fans everywhere? Welcome to Tuss Talk with Ty. You guys know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure if you want to get in on Discord, make sure you do that as well. Let me find that banner. There it is, right there. Join the Tuss Talk with Ty Discord today, Hog fans. And don't forget, like I said, like, share, and sub. Stephen Hamner of QB Spotlight, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, man, Ty, doing good. We made it, right? We made it to the offseason. Week 1's here, so it is time to rock and roll, dude. And dude, look at you with all you've gotten real good with this with the StreamYard stuff, man. I'm impressed. Like I can't figure that stuff out.
Inch by inch, like the more I've used it, because I'm using it more with Hogville, doing interviews with those guys, Otis Kirk, Dudley Dawson, and Kevin McPherson. By the way, go check out Hogville. Everybody, hogville.net. And, of course, Hogville.net YouTube. Go subscribe over there if you haven't already. But yeah, man, it's the more you use it, the more you get used to it. And it is fun. A little fee that comes with it, but that's fine. I get to blow up all your questions. I get to do this. See, here's Austin. It's game week, boys. Check out that little feature. Isn't that cool? So if you guys have any questions, comments, super chat, I think shows up. I'm not sure, but if you throw out a super chat, that will absolutely get blown up. And I'll make sure that you get to the front of the line as far as getting your question or comment, whatever, shown up. All right, Steven. Direct Service Overhead. I can't forget my sponsor before we go any further. Direct Service Overhead, the garage door repair company. You guys know what to do with them, right? They've been a long-time sponsor here. They were the first sponsor, and Travis Ford and the boys, they get it done. They offer same-day services, emergency service, 24/7, 365 days a year, free estimates, quality parts, affordable outcomes, better than best results. Give them a call today at 501-244-3667. 501-244-3667. Remember, don't let that 501 scare you off because they do operate in Northwest Arkansas. Okay. Steven, let's go ahead and get started. Cincinnati's coming into town. I have decided I was going to come in today and give everyone my official wins and losses pick. I'm going to actually push that back. I'm going to do that on Friday. I want Friday's show to be really suspenseful. I have changed. My initial wins and losses was 9-3. Like I said, that's changed. You've got Cincinnati coming to town. Maybe that's a game. Let's say you're on the opposing side. I know you're not, but let's just say you are. You're a Cincy guy.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on with this offense, with this quarterback situation, and everything the Hog fans should know about what the Bearcats are bringing to Fayetteville on offense.
Yeah, if I'm a Cincy fan, I think I got kind of 3 big keys of why I would feel confident. Maybe not confident, but why I feel like I have a good chance going into Arkansas. And one, Luke Fickell. He's probably one of the best coaches in all of college football. Anyone that kind of keeps their ear to the ground in college football probably agrees, but for those that don't, I just go check out his resume. Fantastic coach. His guys going to be ready to play. They're going to be disciplined. 2, the quarterbacks they have coming in. So they lost Desmond Ridder. He got drafted in the 3rd or 4th round last year, right? Helped lead that team to a playoff run. But both guys that are competing, I don't know if anyone's been named a starting quarterback yet, but they have a guy named Ben Bryant, who was Ritter's backup until last year. He transferred to Eastern Michigan, played, then transferred back. Talented guy, was always someone Cincy fans were high on. And then their number 2 guy last year, Evan Prater, is their highest recruit they've ever signed. He was Mr. Ohio in 2019, maybe something along those lines, 2019, 2020. Really big prospect. So whoever wins that competition is probably going to be pretty good. And they're very similar to Ritter. They're athletic. They can run. So I think Cincy fans are probably feeling confident that whoever takes over that quarterback position, it could potentially cause some problems for Arkansas. And then number 3, if you're a Cincy fan and you're going up against Arkansas, you're like, they lost Treylon Burks. Who's KJ going to throw the ball to? Like, we're set on defense. Yes, we lost 9 guys to the draft, but our coaching staff is so good that they're coaching everyone up. They lost their number 1 receiver. And so, if you're a Cincy fan, you got to feel comfortable, or you got to feel confident that you can shut down the Razorbacks wide receivers. Again, that's not necessarily my point of view, right? It's just if I'm a Cincy fan, if I'm kind of that Cincy mindset, that's what I have coming into this game.
You talk about some of the things that they've got going on. You mentioned Ben Bryant, who was here, or who was at Cincy. He left. And can you talk a little bit about what he did at it was Eastern Michigan, right? Is that what you said? Was it Eastern Michigan?
Eastern Michigan, yep. So Eastern Michigan, a MAC school. And he's a talented guy, right? He can rip the ball downfield, athletic guy, can run. And so I think he still fits Cincy's offense pretty good, even though Cincy has a new OC. Their old OC is went to LSU. I would imagine the system is going to be pretty similar, just because Bryant and Prater being very similar style quarterbacks as Desmond Ritter. And so, of course, they're going to want to get the run game going. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Arkansas plays Cincy, just because they're so used to like dropping 8, having guys off line of scrimmage, like keeping everything in front. And so it's going to be interesting to see if that plays into Cincy's favor, or if that kind of forces a quarterback to be, not be patient, try to force things, which of course is what Arkansas is going to want to do.
Yeah, they lost 9 just to the draft alone. Going over those names really quick, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who was a first-round pick. I thought he was actually going to go higher than the 4th pick. I thought he was going to be maybe 3 or 2, but he's the number 4 pick to the Jets. They lost Alec Pierce, which is, you can kind of take a sigh of you feel good about that, because this dude sliced up some secondaries this year, although they do have some guys coming back. We'll get into that a little bit. They lost Brian Cook. By the way, Pierce went in the 2nd round to the Colts, the 53rd overall pick. Brian Cook, the safety, to the Chiefs in the 2nd round, pick number 62. I mean, they had 4 guys taken in the first 3 rounds. Of the G5 schools, I'm pretty sure they led in that category, and they led in all the non-P5s. They led, I think, everybody in that category, and ended up with the tied for the 2nd most draft picks, I think, total. Somewhere in there, top 2, top 3. Of course, Desmond Ritter, who went in the 3rd round. Little surprised he didn't go a little higher. J. Sanders, Kobe Bryant, another guy in the secondary. Jerome Ford, the running back. Darian Beavers, linebacker, and then Curtis Brooks, defensive lineman. And that's not including the other guys that they lost. Let's talk a little bit about this offense. What are they going to expect? Is Cincinnati going to try and throw the ball all over the secondary? And where do you think they match up the best against this Razorback defense based on what we know at the moment?
Yeah, man, good question, because I lost, so many guys, like we said. They lost their main pass catcher, they lost their running back, their quarterback. So from the outside looking in, it doesn't really look like, Cincy has any advantage. But if you're a Cincy fan, you're trying to put a spin on it, I would probably say your advantage is the unknown, right? Like, no one else knows kind of what you're going to kind of game plan for, but you. And so you kind of take advantage with that. Where like last year you had Desmond Ritter, you had Alec Pierce, that they know you're trying to get the ball to him. So if I had kind of to put a spin on it, I would say the athleticism at the quarterback position to get Arkansas defenders out of position, essentially, right? That's always something where if a quarterback goes off script, and we saw this last year with some Arkansas defense where they would get out of position at times, right? Like when Bo Nix was scrambling around or something like that, then it's easy to kind of lose some containment. So I think if you're a Cincy fan, or if you're the Cincinnati offense in general, getting your athletic quarterbacks outside to potentially get Arkansas out of position is probably at least what I would kind of view as a key from the outside looking in.
Someone they had transfer in, I don't think people are talking enough about, 6'6", 215-pound wide receiver Nick Mardner, who came out of Hawaii. Say what you want about Hawaii. Those guys, they beat a ranked opponent last year at home. I know they just got absolutely, I don't even know, curb stomped is the right thing to say, what Vanderbilt did. Maybe more severe than a curb stomping. But he's not there at Hawaii. He's in Cincinnati now. 46 catches, 913 yards, 5 touchdowns. And I believe I read somewhere he even dealt with some nagging injuries a year ago. He's going to be a problem, Steven. I don't know that he's going to have a major impact on this game or not, because they've got several good wideouts on this offense. Tyler Scott's back. Trey Tucker's back. They've got another guy, Jaden Thompson, who I think is expected to be a starter. Drew Donnelly, who redshirted a year ago. Chris Scott, Blue Smith. I mean, they are loaded with either transfers, because Blue Smith, I believe, transferred in last year for them. Man, their offense pretty stout. And here's the thing that Hog fans, and I've talked about this on Hogville, I've talked about this in other places with Mark Rogers on his show on the Voice of College Football. Arkansas fans have an issue, a lot of them, with the fact that Bishop and Hudson Clark, mostly with Hudson Clark, coming back. Do you think this is going to end up being a pretty good matchup between their receivers, again, based on what we know, versus Arkansas's corners? Are they going to take advantage? Or what's your assessment of that matchup between those corners versus those wideouts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you maybe look at just the talent, maybe you would lean towards some of Cincy's guys, like you mentioned. But at the same time, it seems I think all of Arkansas's DBs. I know Hudson Clark. They've been there for a while, right? So they're going to play with some intelligence, and they know the system very well. So I think the familiarity within the defensive system for Arkansas's DBs could give them the edge against a Cincy offense who has a new OC, several new transfers coming in. So I'd probably still give the edge to Arkansas's DBs as far as like the DB receiver matchup. But it's a good point in the fact that, all it takes is like a one-on-one ball or busted coverage. And then, that could put Arkansas not in a great position.
Yeah, Hudson Clark, I should specify, I think most of the issue is with Hudson Clark. Only because he's a former walk-on, and that's not really the reason. Another reason being, when he's in man coverage, Steven, he's a liability. I've been saying this. I was saying this even his freshman year. He's a liability in man-to-man coverage. And I feel like I and several other Hog fans have been proven right, and other people in the media. Otis Kirk came on Hogville, and he was like, look, he checks 9 out of 10 boxes as a corner, as a zone cover corner. When he has a little bit of help over the top, he's average in man coverage, maybe below average. And I think that's the issue. He doesn't have SEC speed. That's not a knock on the guy in terms of his athleticism. We know he's got good hands. Listen, I was at almost every fall camp. I was on the ground for almost every practice. Watch them do fastball. Watch them do one-on-one drills outside the 10-yard line, trying to, run these little quick rub routes and slant routes and trying to find ways to beat the DBs in these one-on-one matchups. Hudson Clark legitimately had 4 picks, tied for the most throughout camp, and then would have had 2 more had they not been wearing the boxing gloves in one particular one-on-one matchup. But it's like, all right, let's let someone, not even your fastest player, just run a fade or a go route down the sidelines. He's going to get beat, and that is the fear. We were told, but he's improved in man-to-man coverage. I think I heard I think Sam Pittman made that comment a couple weeks ago. Or, well, maybe it was the beginning of fall camp. I can't remember. No, it was the middle. So it was somewhere in there. And I think a couple of other media people kind of looked at each other like, oh, okay. I'm kind of surprised that wasn't kind of further pushed a little bit, but I think the vibe with the media is, let's just move on. Let's figure out what's going on with the rest of the defense. The good news for Arkansas is I think their safeties are going to be even better this year. With Jalen Catalon, with Blair, you're going to have, and talking about your secondary overall, Miles Slusher, it sounds like he's nailed down the nickel for you Hog fans. Sounds like Slusher has finally, they're going to nail him down at the nickel spot. So What is your? I know we've talked a lot about KJ Jefferson. This has been the question. Where would you put him now that we're transitioning back to the Arkansas offense? Your background. Where would you put KJ Jefferson in your tier of quarterbacks in this league in the SEC?
Top tier. So, well, maybe I would have Bryce Young in his own tier. I think that's probably fair to say. But besides that, you have Young, and then I would have like Hooker and Jefferson in that tier right under Young. And so I would call it the top tier. You got your Young tier, then you have your top tier, then you have your middle tier, then maybe like your unknown tier. So I think I put Jefferson at number 2 or 3 overall in the SEC, kind of going into the season. Him and Hooker, I think you can argue back and forth and make a fair argument for either one.
Again, you guys make sure you go follow Steven Hamner right there at QB Spotlight. That's on Twitter and on YouTube. Go watch his content. He's putting out. You're doing the reel or the shorts.
Yeah, I did. I did one the other day. Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. So I was like, man, am I an idiot? But, get back on it.
Yeah, they're like I said, I kind of think that's if you're going to grow a channel, you got to do a mix now. I think you got to do a mix of shorts and like long edited content and then maybe splash in some lives. It's hard to tell. YouTube, the way the algorithm works is it's so bizarre. You and I have talked about that on Marco Polo, and it's usually just me blabbering on, but YouTube algorithm is tricky. And then it's weird because there are certain little knocks they'll get on your channel that'll decrease your likelihood of being at the top of the search. So you got to pump out content. One way to stay at the top of the algorithm, and you do that by putting out those shorts. Scott says 3, 2, 1. Yo, that's right. There it is. 3, 2, 1. Yo, that's right. Again, if you guys have any questions, if you think Ty, ask him this. Shoot it to us in the comment section. For those of you watching after the fact, you know what? Still ask away. We'll do our best. I'll do my best to respond accordingly. Matt Landers, Steven, I think you and I have talked a little bit about him. Coming out of Toledo, big, long receiver. Watching him, someone had said I would compare him to Greg Childs. Someone made that comment actually in my chat. I think either Hogville or Tuss Talk. I can't remember. I don't know. I think he's taller. He's not as muscular as Greg Childs was, but he's longer. And he is certainly faster. 6'5", big, long, great catch radius. He's going to be a problem, I think, for the corners at Cincinnati. Going a little bit more into specifics, I guess, how should Arkansas really attack this secondary of Cincinnati?
Yeah. So I think like last year, and take this with a grain of salt, last year against kind of these like spread RPO systems, you would see a lot of either cover 1 or cover 3 type deal. And what they would do is they would kind of split up between boundary side and fielder side, right? So boundary side meaning the side closest to the sidelines, and field side meaning the side with more space. And so if I'm an Arkansas OC, which I'm not obviously, but if I'm a play caller or if I'm kind of game playing the plan, I want to get my guys who I probably feel like have more speed, more athleticism, like you mentioned, Landers, even the running backs. I want to get them out in space in the flats. And so I'm probably going to attack that field side, especially if they're going to give me space. A lot of times you would see kind of man schemes on the boundary side, and then you would see some more kind of zone off coverage on the field side. Again, that may not be at all what they do. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say let's attack the field side. There's more space there. We're faster than them. We're probably more athletic than them, especially with them losing, 3, 4 defenders in the draft, right? Maybe more, right? Maybe 3 secondary guys, right? But if they've lost that many guys and you can trust, okay, they're probably going to be well coached still. But at the same time, this is a lot of these guys' first game starting, and it's a big environment. And if we can kind of hit them in the mouth with some like SEC speed, I think the best way to do that is just attack that field side, get your running backs going over there, and kind of get your receivers kind of some space, right? Get the ball to your guys in space. And I think just attack the field side is kind of what I would do. Keep it simple.
If you're Cincinnati, how do you deal with KJ in this offense? What do they do? Do they blitz him? Do they spy him? Like, how do they deal with him?
Yeah, definitely spy him. You definitely have to spy KJ, but that's going to free up someone else, but you don't have a choice. Like if KJ is the main guy you have to shut down, you try to shut him down. If someone else beats you, well, shoot, someone else beat me. But KJ is the center of that offense. If you can kind of frustrate him a little bit or kind of keep him contained, then you can hope that, hey, maybe he gets impatient, he forces something. Right now, you didn't see him force a lot of throws all last year. But at the same time, you still have to try for Cincy. It has to be your game plan. Spy him. Don't let him get going in the run game. So I think if he gets going in the run game, I think it's kind of a wrap, because then everything else kind of will build on top of that, right? But we'll see. So
last year, Cincinnati, for those of you who don't know, we're not overall at best pretty average against the run. Cincinnati they gave up an average of about 170 yards per game. That ended up or no, I'm sorry. It was, hang on, I'm looking at the wrong number. 150 yards. I was thinking that was high. It was 150 yards per game. Ended up, I think, 63rd, 62nd against the run. They gave up 14 rushing touchdowns. KJ is your leading rusher coming back from a year ago, 600 plus yards, multiple touchdowns, very minimal turnovers. Total turnovers were 7. Maybe it was 6. It was 4 interceptions, and I think he lost 2, maybe 3 fumbles. I can't remember. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Cincinnati, I kind of feel like that's going to be a key, is try and force turnovers, try and make him think twice about running too loosely with that football in his arm and making sure he's changing arms based on the sideline with that ball in his hands. But they were not very good against the run. They were, however, elite against the pass. And obviously when you've got 3 guys in the secondary getting drafted, that alone should tell you a lot about a secondary. But then you look at, like you mentioned, they lost 3 total guys out of that secondary. Again, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, that dude he's so good. Brian Cook, it was argued that dude could have been a higher draft pick, but he ended up sliding back to the 62nd overall pick to the Chiefs in round 2. And then Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was really good. Stats wise, I don't think he blew up off the stat sheet, if I remember right, but he goes to the 4th round. Again, I read articles that said he could be a 2nd rounder too. But that alone is just incredible. And then, you got to factor some other stuff in as well. But Arkansas, you feel like you've caught Cincinnati at the right time. And you can argue, too, that Cincinnati caught their opponents at the right time a year ago. Maybe Notre Dame was a little overrated. We have a question here. Well, Tim wants to know, hey, Ty, should we be concerned about recent portal entries from the Hogs? Oh, boy, that's a good question. I would say no, because like Taylor Lewis, the big defensive lineman, he was getting passed up. That's really about all I know in terms of why he might transfer. There were some comments, maybe there was some attitude stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't know I don't think there's any truth to that. I think he got passed up. Nico Davier passed this guy up, a true freshman. We know Taylor Lewis out of he was a JUCO kid, came in 6'3", 295. Really thought he was going to come in and make a splash, especially after losing Torrin Carter. Didn't happen. And he actually fell down the depth chart. When you're a JUCO guy getting beat out by a freshman, that either speaks more to Nico or it speaks more to maybe Taylor was in a little bit over his head on this Arkansas defensive line roster, which, by the way, I think is the lowest, probably the of all the position groups, dead last in terms of where I think your areas where you feel the best about. I don't feel that great about the defensive line. I'm not going to shy away from that. Maybe I will by the end of the week, but by now, going through fall camp, not super high on the defensive line, like I mentioned. But Taylor Lewis slid down the depth chart, did not look like, or I say depth chart, there's no official depth chart out yet, but he slid down, he got passed up. And the other transfer, Jaqualine Crawford, another situation of getting passed up by freshman. Quincy McAdoo was getting more reps and was getting slid up in front of him in terms of fastball and one-on-one stuff. It seemed like Jaqualine Crawford was slipping down and working more with the threes. And there were some other things. I think he just got passed up, very similar to Nico. Or Taylor Lewis on the defensive line just got passed up. These younger, more talented guys came in, and then you got to factor in Matt Landers. Warren Thompson has had, the most consistent camp of any wide receiver. Yeah, I think those two guys, they're not huge losses. Now, if you're going to ask me, I know the follow-up question to that is, are there going to be more? Listen, you don't know. The way the portal works, Steven knows this too, all too well. They could wake up today and just feel like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to hit the portal up and I'll try somewhere else next year. That could happen at any moment in time. I have no idea. I have no leads. I don't believe that they're going to have any more losses. Here's a question from Austin. What should we expect from them offensively? Will they be more run first with new quarterbacks or balanced?
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say run first, right? I mean, I think we both probably don't know, but I think they want to get the run game going and just get your quarterback settled in, right? Like we've all heard this before. Get the run game going, get some easy throws for your quarterback, get him comfortable. So I would assume it's probably going to be the script that they use.
They got Corey Kiner from LSU. I'm trying to remember. I think he was pretty highly. I mean, if you go to LSU, yeah, you've got some legitimate offers on the table. And I think they've got a couple of guys in front of him right now that are expected. I think they're going to be a running back by committee based on what I know. Ryan Montgomery, Charles McClellan. There's another Montgomery. I think they got to be related. That's not a super common last name, Miles Montgomery. And then they've got a freshman in Stephon Beard. They seem to have pretty good depth there. And I think they're going to want to, if I'm Cincinnati and I'm looking at Arkansas' situation on the defense, I'm going to want to attack that defensive front. And why not give the ball off? And Corey Kiner, came from LSU. We'll see what he can do there. Here's one for you. King the Dreamer is one of my favorite new watches on YouTube. Keep grinding and improving, my guy. Look at that. Getting some love. You guys show some love to my boy.
Yeah,
Stephen Hamner. QB
kind.
Spotlight. What's based on what you know about Cincy, so we'll flip the script. How do they deal with Arkansas's running backs? I know it's a similar question to KJ Jefferson and his ability to run the ball, but with Rocket Sanders, by the way, Johnson will not be playing. He's not going to be in this game. He has been seen at camp. Dominic Johnson has with a boot on, or excuse me, not a boot, a knee brace. Doesn't look full speed to me, but he looks like he's moving pretty good. AJ Green will be available, and then they've got this freshman who I'm really excited about, Debinion, who could be really good. But how does Cincinnati stack up against Arkansas's very aggressive run game?
Yeah, I feel like with that, like you have to, if you're Cincinnati, and I don't know if their coaches would agree with this because they want to stop everything, but I think you have to almost have that like bend, don't break mentality. Hey, just contain these guys. Let them get a few yards here. Let them get 5 or 6 here. Just don't let them pop anything. Let's keep them, within a reasonable amount of yards, kind of each play, if you will, and just don't let them pop anything. Then hopefully you can stop them when it comes down to, the red zone. I could be wrong. They could be like, hey, F you, Arkansas, I'm about to take your head off. Let's freaking go. That's what they're probably going to be thinking. If I'm a football player, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking, hey, I'm going to bend, don't break. I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to come at you and like knock your helmet off. So, but I guess we'll see. But I do think they should be okay with allowing some yards here and there. Just don't let the big play happen.
Yeah. That's going to be fun to watch. That, to me, is really the biggest question of this game, is how Cincinnati deals with this. Because really, at the end of the day, this veer and shoot, I've called it more of a power run in disguise because they throw so much weight at you. The difference being, when Brett Bielema was here, it was power run. It was offset eye, under the center kind of offense. This is shotgun, RPO, quarterback gets to make the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Something that a mutual friend of ours who's not in chat at the moment, but we're in a Marco Polo group chat. Something that he and I both recognize, and we kind of had this conversation last year. I don't know if you remember. Arkansas on first down ran the ball something like I think it was like 75% of the time. Now, I know we can't read Kendall Briles' mind on that, but do you think, as a former quarterback yourself, as a guy who's played at multiple levels, high school and beyond, and you work with these guys, that's something some of you may not know. He actually works. Steven works with these athletes, not just football either. To you, do you think that's just that's Arkansas's identity? We're just going to run the ball on first down, or is that a read that maybe he's making a wrong read? We've had people point that out. What is your take? I know you watched plenty of Arkansas football last year. You're not coming at this as someone who barely watched, you watched a lot of Arkansas football. Do you think that that's KJ making that read, or do you think that's by design?
Yeah, man, I think it's so hard to just truly know, right? Unless we're inside
Right.
those meeting rooms, which is a boring answer. But especially with it being like a run pass option on a lot of plays they run, it's just really hard to know what the coaches tell them, because it could be like, from us, we'd be watching the TV, we could be like, hey, like, he should have kept it. The read was to keep it, but it could have been like Briles said, hey, give it to the back and let's just see what happens. And it's also like Briles potentially, building on top of that play, like, hey, it's okay if we don't bust it on this play, but like, we want this play to go this way so we can build on top of it. So I do think it's a fair question, because I do remember watching and being like, like maybe they're right. Like maybe like they seem to run the ball a ton on first down, and then they have like a second and long, and then you got to kind of. But I don't think there's an answer unless you're in those meeting rooms. But I guess we'll find out. Right? Like if they throw the ball more on first down this season, then we're like, hey, they made an adjustment, and maybe they were running it too much. Excuse me.
The question that everyone, and we've touched on it a little bit. How does Arkansas? We know they got this influx of talent at wide receiver. How do they move forward, and can they move forward? I feel like I already know your answer to this, but just for people who might be new to you, how do they move forward without Treylon Burks?
Yeah, I think you move forward like what any team with a really good quarterback does. You just tell him to throw the ball, right? Like, he'll pick out who to throw to, when to throw to, where to throw to. You just kind of trust him to make that decision. And of course, over time, yeah, you want a guy like a go-to guy or someone you feel comfortable with. But I think in this case, you're okay having like 3 guys who you feel comfortable with, even if you don't have a direct go-to guy, as opposed to like last year, you had like one go-to guy, right? And he was a dog, right? First round pick. Why wouldn't you throw to him as much as you did? Like, yeah. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do when you have a first round pick at receiver. Like, hey guys, y'all are pretty good over here too, but my guy over here is about to get paid a lot of money, so I'm gonna give him the ball. I think it's a little bit different now, which isn't a bad thing. You can be just as successful, just done a little bit differently. So if you got maybe 3 guys with 40 plus catches, 500 plus yards, 4 or 6 touchdowns catches each, that's a pretty good kind of distribution of the wealth, if you will. So if you're an Arkansas fan, you're kind of worried about who you're going to throw to. I think it's fair, right? Because you can't replace someone like Treylon Burks. But I think that's when you have to be like, hey, we got a pretty good quarterback. We got a good offensive coordinator who's going to kind of scheme up and open up some receivers. Let's just trust these guys to go throw the rock to whoever they need to throw the rock to, and trust them to take it from there.
It's weird to say this, but I feel like, well, I'll say it like this. Coming into fall camp, that was the biggest question. What are these receivers? Sam Pittman said it himself. The receivers replied with, well, we took that personally, not from Sam Pittman, but when Sam Pittman said that, that was our biggest question mark. Well, he wasn't the only one saying that. Media, fans, how on earth does Arkansas recover after losing someone like Treylon Burks? It's not easy. He is a rare talent that comes out of this state. We don't get very many first-round wide receivers out of this state. That just doesn't happen. And so it was a fair question. Then also based on Warren Thompson dropping balls left and right last year, you lost your other leading receivers. Trey Knox has moved to tight end last year. I think it was a fair question. I think it was fair to throw them in the red flag category simply because of the unknowns. But they're going to have – I think they will, and I think they need to, and I think they will prove people wrong throughout the regular season. Michael Kopesky says, yo, what up, Ty? I hope in year 3 Briles has more plays in the playbook. The SEC is too good not to adjust to same old plays. I don't know. What's your take on that? You've watched Kendall. You're familiar with Kendall. You've seen him at Arkansas. How would you assess him as an OC at Arkansas these last 2 years?
I think the fact that you have had so many, whether it's rumors or whether it's true, so many bigger schools, right, come after Briles in the offseason, I think that goes to show like how valuable he really is. And so the fact that other people are trying to take away your guy, even if you get frustrated at times, like you're playing and coaching against some really, really good coaches too. I think it's fair to say, hey, can we open up the playbook? I think that's fair. But at the same time, it's like the RPO system, with the fact you can have offensive linemen go 3 yards downfield and not get called. I think the fact that, that's the case, that it's almost easier as an OC in college and in the NFL, of course, because you have that advantage. So I think it's a fair question. I think it's fair. You want to adjust. You don't want to do the same old, because guys, defensive coordinators will kind of find ways to stop it. But at the same time, that's when you just try to recruit better and get guys that are better than other guys, right? Like Alabama's not changing anything. They just have the best players on the team. So I think that's when it's time to kind of have it like long-term mindset and know you're building and growing. We got a good position. Let's just keep getting the guys we need to get in here and run this system well.
Here's a question. King the Dreamer wants to know, there's a lot of talk about the wideouts, but do you see Trey Knox, who transitioned from wide receiver to tight end? He's put on some weight. Do you see Trey Knox being one of those 40-plus catch guys, or will it be mostly the guys on the outside?
So I think that's a good question, because I think from the RPO system, if you have a tight end that can do some damage, like that's who you want to hit. It's easier throws, safer over the middle, usually with the tight end, and the ball doesn't have to travel as much, right? And so I think he definitely has that talent and skill set to be a 40-plus guy. And I think if he is a 40-plus guy, that says a lot about it's a good sign for Arkansas's offense. If you look at you just look at the schools that have had success running these type of schemes, they usually have a pretty good tight end they can dump the ball off to. So, I don't know if he'll have that or not, but if he can get that, and that probably tells us the offense is humming and moving.
I had him. So that was the question on Hogville. If you guys if you haven't been on Twitter and you haven't seen hogville.net, that was a question that I put out there on Hogville. Tell us Trey Knox's stats this year. I have him at 40 catches, 455 yards, 6 touchdowns. Now, the reason for that, someone might say, well, no tight end has done that here since, it's been a minute, and nobody in this offense has done that at tight end since Kendall's been here. And the reason why I think that is simply because of how much better the outside has gotten. These receivers are going to take a lot of attention away from what's going on at tight end. I think, too, some teams might even underestimate Trey Knox a little bit because he's a former wideout. He didn't exactly blow up. He had a nice transition last year, and a lot of credit to the staff there. But he's also a former wideout, and you got to imagine he's going to be able to run any route they want to give him out of that tight end spot. I realize they're not the same, but at the same time, he has experience in running plenty of routes, and he understands this offense. He's been in it for 3 years. I think he's got good hands. I can't explain why he disappeared last year at wide receiver. I really don't know, because I don't think the overall talent from Trey Burks and then down, I don't think it was that high behind Burks. Of course, Burks is elite, but everyone else is just kind of in their own category. But I think based on what I saw in fall camp, running fastball, Knox was targeted a lot in fastball. I really think he's going to be in that. I think he is going to end up, if not at that 40-plus catch category, I think he's going to be really close. Maybe, softball, maybe like 32, 33 catches, which is not great, but it's a great step. By the way, he has another year of eligibility. He has not redshirted since before coming in during COVID or before COVID. So he has another year of eligibility if he wants to get even better at that position. That's a good question, King. Appreciate it. Here's another one from Austin. With the playbook being brought up, do you think we will still see Briles doing a lot of trick plays or no?
Yeah, I'm going to give that question to you. You'd probably know that better than me. I say no. I mean, I don't like trick plays, but I'll let you answer that.
That seems to be a part of his offensive play calling identity, is mixing in trick plays early in games. I don't really understand it, but he does it. I don't know that they ever really work. Yeah. The double pass to Burks, at your own 10-yard line last year was the biggest head scratcher I've ever seen. And they did that early on in the game. I want to say first or second quarter. I just remember seeing it, my jaw hitting the floor. Like, why would you call that? That could have been really awful. Luckily, it didn't end up in a turnover, but I think Arkansas had to punt. I want to say that happened on a third down, but I don't know. That was just bizarre. You and I, again, have talked about his situational play calling. It has been sus, as kids would call it. It has. I'm not saying I like him as an OC. Love that he's here for 3 years. I mean, like you said, when you're getting offered by these other schools, that's a sign of good things happening. But sometimes the situational play calling is bizarre. Going back to running it on first down, I tend to think that's a Kendall Briles thing, not a KJ Jefferson thing, making the wrong read. I think that's Kendall wanting, or it could be Sam too, just wanting to run the football and taking what the defense gives you. The problem is we've seen them do that when they're not running the ball well, and they still run it on 1st and 10. So that's a good question out of Austin. I don't know. Without Burks being here, who was someone who kind of was the focal point, or was I don't know what the right word is. He's the guy they went to on special on those trick plays. I hope we see less. That'll be a good sign if we're seeing less. I'll say that. Totally outcoaches himself sometimes, says Cat Bailey. All right, again, if you guys have any more questions, we're about to wrap this up. Speak now or forever hold your tongue. I'll put it like that. I'll be a little bit more specific. Speak now or forever hold your tongue. I do think Arkansas is going to do better on offense this year. I think they're in a really good place when you talk about spreading out the talent now. It's not just one guy with all the talent. Are you prepared to give me your wins and losses total for Arkansas? Are you prepared to do that?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. You want it now or?
Do it now.
Yeah, let's just go 8-4. And this is something, it might sound like I just did off the top of my head, but something that we've talked about, for the past few weeks. I just think they got such a hard schedule. And so I think it's in the SEC West. I think it's almost fair to say, unless you're Alabama, you're probably going to get 2-ish losses, right? Give or take. And then the out of conference schedule is so tough. Well, I shouldn't say so tough. 2 of their games are pretty tough. They play Liberty too, right? Is that
yeah? They got Liberty on November 5th. After Auburn.
Okay, so they got Liberty too, which if it was last year, you're probably a little more concerned. But BYU is no joke. Cincy is no joke. Anyone that's kind of watched what we put out or watched our breakdown of it, we think really highly of Cincy, and we think it's going to be a close game. And then the SEC West is just so tough. So I think 8-4 is pretty realistic. I could also see them going like that 10-2 range, like some of our friends that we think do. But I think 8-4 is probably where I'm going to sit at. I think they're better than 7-5. I think 8-4 is kind of that range for me.
I think that's fair. Like I said, I'll give my official on Friday. I know that's not fair for me to ask for yours and me.
No, your show. It's your show, dude. Yeah, you can.
I wanted to originally. I was going to do my wins and losses. I was doing it, and I'm wrestling pretty hard with this because this is, like you mentioned, the schedule is brutal.
It's hard.
My first too early prediction after spring, I think I had them at 6-6. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think after spring, I thought, God, I just don't know. Receivers, I'm not impressed. Defensive line, so many question marks. But then getting through fall camp, that's why you wait, and that's why we call them too early. And then I've eventually said, okay, well, I'll go 8-4. I think the beginning of July is when I did my too early. Or no, I said 9-3. My bad. I said 9-3 was my too early pick. I have changed my pick, like I said. Hard schedule at home, though, so I don't know. I'm feeling 10+ wins. Yeah, I mean, that is true, but you have to look at the week-to-week grind, whether it's at home or on the road or not. Sure, you got Alabama at home, South Carolina, Cincinnati. Liberty is in. It's at home. That's your homecoming game. LSU, thankfully, is in. I think people are sleeping on LSU a little bit. You've got them on the 12th at home and Ole Miss at home. And then you go, thank God, you have Mizzou on the road this year, which you've got to feel pretty good about. But there's some games here. There's so many coin flip games. I don't know that I've ever looked at a year and go, God, that's a coin flip. That's a coin flip, meaning it could go 50-50. There's so many. Arkansas, you feel like they've got to stay healthy, and that's the case for everybody every year, week in and week out. I get that. But for Arkansas in this situation, week to week, they have got to be healthy. This is an incredibly tough schedule. I have now kicked, I said forever. I don't know that, I say forever, 2 years. Didn't know that we would top that 2020 conference-only schedule with them adding Florida and Georgia because the SEC is a bunch of assholes. I don't know that it would have gotten hard. And I think looking at the schedule, this is harder. Yeah, you got 2 more games. I get that, but those 2 more games are Liberty and they're Cincinnati, and Missouri State. I think Arkansas will probably blow out the water, but still, it's Bobby Petrino. You don't know what he's going to bring at you. You know that he's circled this game. At BYU is so hard to predict right now. I'll tell you, that's the one I'm struggling with the most out of all of these. I think it's that at BYU game. Justin Kipper says 9-3. Hey man, that was my original too early pick. So who knows? All right, you guys, you know what to do. Go follow QB Spotlight. Stephen Hamner does a great job breaking down all these offenses and talking about the quarterbacks. He thinks really highly of your Hogs in this offense. KJ Jefferson, he thought really highly of him last year when nobody else was. I mean, I thought he was. I thought he might have been drinking a little bit when he was saying KJ was gonna shut the lights off in the place. And you were right, man. And you were one of the first people to say that publicly, anyways. From people that do what we do as content creators in the ethos. But yeah, go follow him on Twitter, here on YouTube. He kills it. Thanks for coming on, man. Thank you. Absolutely. And Ty, I love the Hogville stuff, man. I've been watching, keeping up with it. So keep up that Hogville work, dude. It's awesome. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, a lot of work. This week it's kick the tires and light the fires. Yep. That's what this week is for all of us. I love it, man. This is my time of the year. This is it feels so good. It feels so good. With you. All right, Hog fans. Remember to like, share, subscribe. You guys, you know what to do. Again, go to his channel, go to Hogville, go to all these places. Subscribe and give them some support and some love. Shout out to Patreon supporters as well. You guys right here, look at you, rock stars. If you want to join, that link is provided for you down below in the more tab. If you just look at that, you'll be able to subscribe. We are, for those of you who are in our Discord, we are resetting XP tonight. This is now for money. Right now it's $100 after the Mizzou game, based on the XP in that Discord. If you want further details and an explanation as to what's going on, join our Discord. We're actually going for money. This is real talk. This is for a hundo. I know that's not much with this inflation, but it's better than nothing. So we're trying to reward our most active Discord members. That's how you get it. You're active on Discord. You chat, you get in on the polls, and you do this and that. So, all right. Woo pig. And I'm sure I'll see you guys sooner than later. Go Hogs.